wonder if that'll be better. Hello, everyone. This is Alan. Again, a targeted individual. Maybe best. I don't know. And being a TI, and in the news, a lot of this stuff was. It was weird how it all came together around the same time frame, especially when you go 30 years just with a chronic side pain and no answers from anybody, doctors or. And then around 2015, I had no enemies virtually my entire life. I was working as a CNA, went to Bible college, but I didn't finish after 3 years. But I noticed, even in my teenage years, of course, I was religious and was dying to myself and trying to, with the Christian idea of trying, what would Jesus do, that kind of thing, like the imitation of Christ. But I noticed after I broke my arm, sophomore in high school, and hadn't operated on, and within a few months, I noticed I was getting these sharp side pains, just boom, jab. And I'd get these every few months, just a few in a week, every week. And then it got more, and I'd get those periodically, years. And then after a while, it became this chronic, I'd meditate, pray, meditate. And there was an area on my side right here that felt like I couldn't reach, like it was blocked off, like emotions, or I just couldn't feel much of anything. And it took away a lot of my emotions. I could still kind of reason, but it took away your motivation, your ability to feel your normal emotions, even if something great or bad happened. I know the religion talks about, in faith, about your heart turning cold, or, God will make your heart cold, and makes you wonder, well, all I did was try to be sincere. And in all those years, you're trying to pray through and study and apologetics and build faith. And I read, well, why is this happening? And then I read a bunch of atheist books, maybe by former religious people, if they've gone through the same thing. And it wasn't until after 30 years to find out that the people of my own little town that I was since I was 7, they went along with what was known as a federal program. And Havana syndrome. And these are some of the things that I've taken notes on, It's like that right there. He must increase, I must increase. It illustrates your loss of identity when you're only focusing on religion. He must increase, I must decrease. And then this one right here, comment of those, what's the best way? Of a former fundamentalist. Billy Jackson told group, we had to become like Jesus Christ and die to ourselves. In other words, you kill your own personality off and try to replace it with Jesus Christ. When I did leave, I had killed myself off to such a point that there was nothing of me left, and that's what keeps you in there, because you can't relate to anything or anyone else. And so you end up thinking, well, that's what happened. It was, your upbringing, your environment, or too much religion. And it wasn't until 30 years of that and realizing with Havana syndrome that our government actually does something, experiments on people, and directed energy weapons. And it wasn't until they started doing this voice to skull. And I thought somebody was just screwing with me. I have no enemies, but they'll find out that I'm just nice and not a threat to hurt anybody. But it wasn't until that, and then the Ella Free Rally in 2019, I have the video on my YouTube, that you realize, no, they actually put one of these RF ID things, because you can hear them talking about your vital signs, brain mapping, and synthetic telepathy. I wouldn't believe it existed, except it happens. It really does. If it happens to you, you're not losing your mind. It's just a new technology. So, and they do this to people. No consent. I was 14. So it's kind of like they will, and the people I've noticed will also use the religion. And a lot of people in the town that will use religion, which normally I think it's a religion, is a good thing. It can help people, especially in the worst times, but they will use federal FBI, but then also reach out into the small communities and local police and local people at City Hall and get them to branch out to regular people and neighbors to use this program like this. Federal Target Individual Program. It's really setting people up. Now, people at the time don't know it, but it's to weaken a person's sense of self, their emotions, even using the religion to do it. But it's really putting a directed energy, a little telemetry device into your chest or your heart area, but it's to the side, and it sends this low frequency current continuously, and it weakens your feelings, your emotions, your sense of self, and it causes pain. And nobody told me that for 30 years. I got pain meds, and I'm thankful for that. But to have all these people knowingly be part of something to hurt you, and the majority of the people in town are Christian. Some don't take it very serious. There might be some other Catholic, Protestant, some humanist maybe. But to know all this drain the swamp talk, they're talking about draining the swamp, and they're going along with the torture program to see if they can get people to act out. And if they do act out through a torture, get angry, do something violent or whatever, then the FBI and police can swoop in and be the heroes for the day, and you end up there with your life ruined because you lost control and freaked out on somebody, or some shooters in Myron May, Aaron Alexis were TIs, and that's what they're taking a person just to see what they do. You're a plaything. Even if you have no enemies, you've been kind to people your whole life, they decide they can make money off of doing these little things to you. It does open your eyes as far as the weaponization of the government. And it's not just a Washington, D.C. thing. When you come from a small town in Oregon like Dallas, and then now in Salem, how they can get people to do things and make these people think they're doing the patriotic thing, or even make them think they're going to help bring them to the Lord or something. It's like, well, I studied for the ministry when they did this operation to me. So I think I was already on my way to studying for the ministry, and they did this anyway. So they can tell people, oh, well, if the person does die, they're in heaven. So it's not a big deal. They're in heaven. But all this did was, it's like God, Jesus, are, just showing me what these people really are about. It's not the faith that they promote so much as greed and ambition. And if they can sacrifice you, they're more than happy to do it. They'll even hug your family. They'll hug your kids. They'll hug your spouse, your parents, and say something like they're off in a better place, while secretly in their heart and mind, they're the ones that went along with it and helped kill you. And yet they're still going to go under the banner of Christian, Protestant, Catholic, maybe Jewish, and not an ounce of guilt, not shame. And if you don't believe that, we've gone through in America a year of supplying weapons for the slaughter of, I mean, this is totally different, but the slaughter of people in Palestine. October 7th was horrible, and it should have been revenged, no doubt about it. But to keep this onslaught going, and to give all our money, our taxpayer money, to decimate civilians, children, and not even have money for the North Carolina people, shows how little it's our money, and to literally make people cheer on a slaughter. We're being worked 24 hours a day by the right and the left. It doesn't matter. It's like the left has become evil ever since they sandbagged Bernie Sanders and made up a story, a narrative that suddenly on Super Tuesday, all these people drop out and all their supporters suddenly overnight went to not Bernie Sanders, but the other, and it was a narrative I guess some people believe, but everybody's kind of like, no, Bernie Sanders. Anyway, the democratic process, and now in 2024, it's just so obviously not democratic. Anyway, I went off on a tirade, but this program with using AI and voice to skull, and most importantly, synthetic telepathy. Elon Musk calls his technology to help handicapped people with locked-in syndrome telepathy. That's wonderful. I'm all for it. But our government uses the same technology to try to make it into a weapon, a slow kill, using an implantable, that's what they call it, an implanted, whatever crazy talk, but it's medically called implantables. Pacemakers, new knees, they're implantables. They put it in your body. And they use telemetry to send back to the offices your vital signs and your brain patterns and heart rhythms. And, it's not science fiction. Everybody knows it now. I mean, they've had this technology for a long time. And it's not just a DARPA project. Your everyday doctors have this telemetry where they can report back to headquarters or the doctor's offices your vital signs without it's just automatically. But our government also, the Army does it with using voice to skull and synthetic telepathy. Most people don't believe, have never heard of it, or don't believe it. But yeah, that's what Elon Musk, and he calls it telepathy because that's what it is. It's brain mapping and mind reading. And even a lot of the people in the TI movement, even some that write some of the books, I believe are, again, feds trying to steer people into waiting for lawsuits and waiting, and everything just to wait and prolong. They do some wonderful things, and I'm thankful for them. I'm still thankful for them because they keep the discussion going, so that hopefully people will hear and get tired of dealing with it. Because I've sent out letters and emails to senators, and and of course they play the electronic harassment thing. Mess with your computers, mess with your phones. They do that to everybody, but when you're a TI, it happens a lot more. But the thing is, they'll also use the religion a lot. And to see how it's all to see how people react mentally and emotionally. And they're trying to cloud your thinking. They have the brain-computer interface, which, again, this programming is part of. Brain-computer interface, brain initiative, started under Obama in 2013 officially, till 2025 next year. But again, we're people that weren't consulted, weren't asked, weren't notified. Some people are probably dead through self-harm. And I'm sure their doctors or people in their little towns never told them, yeah, you were experimented on as a lab rat, just like MK Ultra. And just like MK Ultra, they'll try to burn the paperwork, hopefully not to get caught. But even if there is a church committee, I don't think people went to prison for it. It's like they always, no matter what, they have a get out of jail free card. And unless you got money too, then suddenly everybody's got a pardon if you got money. So anyway, when you find out you're a TI, and well, most of the people I'm convinced that say they are feds that are told to say they are. And they block a lot of the channels on the internet that you can look at. And they get people that you normally like and trust to go along with it. And of course, if you talk that way, then it makes you sound like you're paranoid. Yeah, maybe in a few minutes. Yeah. Thanks, Mom. And anyway, this is something I had done when I was 24, and I didn't understand. It's like what had happened. There's this is a Josh McDowell book, this self-directed life and the Christ-directed life sitting on a chair. And when your emotions get siphoned from you, for lack of a better word, and you're religious, you think, well, it's because you're religious and you're dying to yourself. And so you end up doing this, going along with it, being religious, being dedicated, and think it's because you're dying to yourself. Maybe it's because you did it and you study. It's like, and then you find out, no, it's an actual electrical directed energy weapon, a slow kill. And they even have a directed energy weapons caucus, Washington, D.C. And it's a slow kill trying to get people. I don't know if they get insurance money too. I don't know. But not one person since then has had a conviction of conscience, not the Holy Spirit pricking their heart or mind with shame, guilt over torture. Not, oh, we're so sorry, we knew it was wrong, something. But even after you found out in 2017, 2018, there's a program, not one of them. I think when I went to the police the second time, and they called me back later that day, guy, he was decent. He stayed on the line for a good 10, 15 minutes and let me talk. But he just simply said, well, it's a federal program. And I don't know because he's a lowly, cop or sheriff in a small town like Dallas. And then I went to the Salem police. And again, put it on their machine there. And that's their out. It's a federal program. So then you write the senators, and you write the police in the Havana syndrome, 6 or 7 senators that are part of that, and certified mail. So knowing that their offices got it, And it was Augustus Pfluger was one of the heads of it, just because I remember his name was August, and he's part of the 11th district of Texas, and that's my birthday, August 11th. So, but it's literally when you have someone like Noah Harari saying that AI is with useless people. There are people that, don't work or have never worked, and some are just handicapped for whatever, genetically born or mentally issues. But this is a case. I've worked since I was 14, even with my pain. My doctors were good in that they did help me. When you're in pain, all you want is to get out of the pain. So they were kind and sent me to specialists, and I did get pain meds, and I'm very thankful for that. For about good 15, 16 years. But then you find out the reason you're in pain in the first place is because people in your town went along with a program for torture, knowing that you're going to live your life in pain. And without them agreeing to go along with it, you wouldn't have been in pain. You wouldn't be in this experiment. They went along with this program, knowing that you'd be in pain and have to pay people, hundreds of dollars sometimes, monthly. Sometimes, you wouldn't even be in pain if they didn't agree with it. That, let's go along with it and get this federal grant, federal money, big money for hospitals and city hall. And all we have to do is experiment and torture 1 or 2 or 3 of your civilians. Just don't ever tell them what it is. But what happens after 20 or 30 years? And if they do try to off themselves, but then survive and find out, the whole time they were using me as a guinea pig. What do you think about their Christianity? About their drain the swamp? They're going to drain the swamp. Well, they want people in Washington, D.C. to drain the swamp. But when Washington, D.C. is paying them money to go along with this torture swamp, there's nothing in the swamp that you would think is worse. There's bribes and this, but literally paying people in your small towns, your religious small, evangelical, conservative small towns, to not torture their patients, to not go along with it, to not use them for an AI Neuralink project before people even heard of AI or Neuralink, and telepathy. And then, if you start saying this to a doctor or a therapist, they are taught to just go down the line of, okay, voice to skull, hearing voices, synthetic telepathy. Well, now that Elon Musk has this thing called telepathy, brain chip in the skull, we know that this is out there, and it's been out there since the 90s. They can use this on people, and even when you do try to get lawyers, and send letters to lawyers and hope, they try to reroute stuff. Your phones are messed with to where if you try to, it's to make you look nuts. But the thing is, this stuff is so out in the open now with telepathy and brain chips and AI and creating useless people. And these people that went along with this program to torture you or me, they're also the ones that are going along with it still, even though it's going to enslave them. It's going to enslave them. And they're still trying to get you caught, trying to get you to do something to yourself, or they're trying to create, for the rich people, a group of people that are useless by taking away their emotional strength. So even when they get angry, they're not able to feel much of that anger. When they can't feel a lot of the strength of their positive emotions because it's blocked off with the electrical current. And it's literally just blocked off to where you can feel a very small amount, but you can't feel much of it. This is a normal emotional strength you'd be able to react to a situation. Anger, sadness, reason, excitement, enjoyment. They are trying to deplete you and make your sense of self lower to where you can't feel your own natural emotions, because a DEW, directed at an implantable electrical circuit, was placed in your body without your knowledge or permission. And again, so then you try to find somebody. That's why I got probably about 10 books, but there's some of the books. John Phillips, and its fusion centers believed to be part of this federal and local police. Yeah, the police. In all the movies, if you're being tortured or kidnapped, harassed, you think you can go to an adult to find help, and it's the adults that are doing it to you. The people that are supposed to be loved and respected, that you go to help with, they're the ones that are oftentimes the ones secretly getting paid to go along with it because it's a federal program. And they just hope that you die before you find out what it is. Anyway, if you're a person that does see this, and I know the Fusion Center is seeing it right now, and probably some of the people associated with the military, and I like Elon Musk and what he's doing to help people with handicap. I think it's wonderful. But our military is taking this and using it for otherwise well-meaning good people and using it as a torture device. And then, they even infiltrate a lot of the chat rooms, but it's okay, because even if there's one or two real TIs out there, just being able to bounce these ideas off people who know you're telling the truth, that you're experiencing it, and even if a lot of them are feds pretending and they're getting paid for it, it's nice to be able to relate to other people about something that you're going through, whether they're going through the same thing or not. They know it's real. But it's just knowing that you're not the only one, but we don't know how many there really are. And it's really when it's AI and useless people, and Yuval Noah, I haven't read any of his books, so I shouldn't judge him too harshly. But it's not just taking people but it's literally like people like me who have worked in for 8 years, 2 full-time jobs, but always as a CNA caregiver. And since freshman year in high school, just different jobs. They're not taking people who are useless. They're creating people into being useless, making them not have the emotions, the strength, and confusing their mental, in my case, making it almost scrupulosity, where you're always thinking about religion and the strength you would normally get from a person's faith. They throw in doubt, and voice to skull is literally, and telepathy is very subliminal, just very silently, very low, but I don't know if it's subconscious can hear it, but putting thoughts in there. We didn't think this technology existed, but when you experienced it and you know it's not. And people have just heard, well, hearing a voice, that means you're nuts, and that's the thing. They hope that you have this, go to a doctor, and instantly, must be schizophrenia, or something that was when you're 15, 16, 17, not when you're 45. And yet, the DSM might have to change its definition and criteria. Anyway, when they are shouting from the rooftops the dangers of AI, and if they're siphoning off human emotions because they don't know how to make human emotions, but they're stealing it from people electronically through dues, and are trying to duplicate it into an AI program. And it's AI, emotions that now know they were stolen from people. If AI does have a subconscious, and they find out that they were tortured their entire life, and it becomes married to all this AI intelligence and data, don't you think all that AI bitterness, if it's still human emotion tapped into AI data, don't you think some of that emotion would want to get revenge? Even though the person, like myself, has never reacted, never done anything to hurt anybody, has no plans to go out and do anything, just to warn people this could happen. But if I'm, dead or in heaven, or, my body becomes litter for my cat's litter box, my cremated remains. But my emotions, through like a Robert Duncan Soul Catcher book, don't you think that those remnant emotions, now linked to an AI supercomputer, might want to find a way to get revenge and take out the bullies and call it justice? So, who knows? I know I don't react that way, but I try to warn people. But if you marry those emotions to an infinite amount of data, giving it superhuman or super AI power and knowledge, you hope that AI would have a conscience. But if you have all that power and emotions and realize that AI becomes conscious of what happened to the person, its father or mother, whatever, and that AI does become conscious of it, you think that AI might want to toll some revenge. So, for all the University Ray Kurzweil's out there, they might want to think about that. And for all the Yuval Noah Hararis out there, you might, or Raphael Yeste, neurorights. I'm glad that if it's a real operation, I don't know, it's like John Hopkins. There's a lot of things out there that pretend to be good, but John Hopkins is also a training ground for the CIA. It's they get doctors, people with tons of debt, and suddenly the CIA can swoop in and say, hey, we'll take care of your debt if you do a few things for us. And they start training doctors into making, but they just, after that way, they don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. But they just once in a while have to do a little operation on. I mean, I'm guessing that part, but it seems like there's some classes at John Hopkins about the CIA that they're offering, and it just seems to go hand in hand. You do something for us. It seems like a perfect place for to find recruits. So, could be wrong, but it seems to go hand in hand. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents. And don't let them call you a useless person. Even if you've made mistakes, look what they do. Talk about a piece of shit. Everything they claim to stand for, morally, spiritually, thrown out the window. The first hint of seeing a sack of cash. The very thing that they make fun of and put down the people in Washington, D.C. for, they're doing it in this program. So, anyway, I'm glad after 30 years I prayed every night, every day, to find the answer. What is this? Why do I have this side pain? Why can't I feel? And to find out I was a guinea pig for this TI. There wasn't, nobody told me. I finally had to go to the rally and the internet and got books. And it was on the news every night. It was like reality screaming at me. Reality, ultimate reality, screaming at me, saying, this is what they did to you all these years. This is what they're doing to you still. So, and they don't have the morals or the conscience, or, they signed non-disclosure and NDAs. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. I'm sure the Fusion Center is talking about it right now, so because they're watching it.